We've got a venture capital industry that's been around for like 10 to 14, 15 years.
Yeah.
Not very operator driven. So the level of, मतलब इंडिया में 10 रुपए डाल रहा है मेरे को 100 रुपए चाहिए. Unfortunately, that's the case, right? You are not going to get a 10x return every time. You're not going to get a 2x return.
Yeah, right. And their purpose is to raise capital. They say, hey, I raise capital, I just build this business, otherwise I'm not interested. In my opinion, usually these are not the kind of people who build big businesses. But can you create a luxury fashion brand in India?
Yeah.
India doesn't have that image, right? Of creating luxury product. Even US doesn't have that image, except iPhones.
Yeah, most of the luxury stuff comes out of Europe. Yeah,
Yeah,
pretty much.
Europe.
Or Japan.
The target audience is Indian.
Yeah, it's going to be extremely difficult because, hey, do you want to spend the money to create a luxury brand? Because when you build a luxury brand, you're spending oodles of money to get into the right doors, get into the right rooms, create the right experiences to build that product, right?
Like we had this conversation with Shivang the other day.
Yeah.
So they are building this platform, right?
Yeah,
For luxury.
for big things, yeah.
Yeah, and they're also not building a brand. They're from industry, and that they said like the biggest brands are Italians and French.
Yeah, it's very, very difficult for somebody to envisage you that you're Indian and you're doing something in luxury.
No one is going to buy your product.
Yeah.
So when you say building something for export, then again are we talking about non-luxury, right? Non-premium.
I think you got to go very category A category.
Where India might like Essence oil.
Oil, yeah.
That could be one category.
Well, you could look at, say, Essence oil. You could look at, some cosmetics made with original spices, Ayurveda formulations, a lot of those kind of things.
For which India is well known for.
Yeah, I think we need to go back to the roots, right? So I think the story and the narrative needs to be told better. We're good transactional people, we're good business people, but we are essentially very poor storytellers. And crafting a brand is a lot about storytelling and actually projecting that aspirational value, right? Why do I go out and buy an iPhone for 80,000 rupees when I could buy something for like 40,000? Similar hardware. Because iPhone as a brand, it's cutting edge of design. I don't think we are there yet.
See, the kind of companies we have seen in India, the companies that have become really big, are still ops driven. Companies like Zepto, Oyo.
Tech-enabled business,
these are
right?
Tech businesses. They still have a massive human layer where you have thousands of gig workers working for you because you have a cost advantage.
So I think consumer internet companies that have come out, which are pure play consumer internet companies that have gone overseas, is probably Coco FM. I think there are very few product companies that have come out of India.
But I don't know how well they are doing also.
I thought they were doing quite well in the US. I don't know exactly what the details are.
See, Zerodha could have been one such company. But again, there is so much competition in the US and the Europe. Every country have their own brokers.
See, I think the biggest Indian export, and I keep talking about it, I've written about it a few times. I think the biggest Indian export from a software point of view is the Indian fintech stack. So the whole Aadhaar, the whole stack that we have is unparalleled. Nobody else has similar stack. I think Brazil is building one on their own. So I think India could make a lot of license revenue just lifting and shifting and showing the stack to other governments in the world and just collect license revenue. Right? Because I have friends of mine I talk to regularly in the US. Transferring money from one bank account to another bank account in the US takes 3 days or 4 days. A lot of people use checks. So we're way ahead of a lot of people when it comes to fintech. So in your consumer internet argument, I think fintech is that one area we could be an outlier in a lot of global areas.
No, but say if you look at payments, online payments, I think India, the Google Pay has the biggest market share.
No,
Like
in India is PhonePe is number one, yeah?
Yeah, and Google Pay is number 2. And it's not even one of the interest areas of Google. And then Paytm is nowhere. People have literally I don't think Paytm it still might be number 3, but it's a distant number 3 now.
But these are all loss-making businesses, right? Only PhonePe makes money because of the lending part of the business. The other guys, it's only money in lending. There's no money in just the platform.
Action, yeah.
Is there going to be a platform like a TikTok, a X, a Facebook.
Because I read a very interesting infographic
Mhm.
about US companies and what are their European alternatives.
Yeah.
And literally there were none. Is there an Indian alternative in search, online search?
You can say that the Perplexity guy is Indian, but there's no Indian alternative in search. No. Social networks.
Social, yes.
There were a lot of social networks in the late 2000s, early 2010s, but they all died.
AI LLMs, none.
As in LLMs, we're probably calling it too early. Give it a couple of years, because I think there could be a couple of AI companies out of India who fundamentally do models very specific to India, to the world, or India to India models. Okay. So I wouldn't completely rule that out. I think that race is just sort of in that 20th to 30th minute.
Also, big consumer internet companies, let's say, for example, YouTube, no alternative in India. Like I'm talking about even from an Indian point of view. So see, there are certain areas we
We
have.
don't have an equivalent for Amazon Web Services.
So where do we have alternatives? One is e-commerce, of course.
E-commerce we do. We have quick delivery.
Quick commerce.
We've got
food
food,
delivery.
urban company.
Basically, deliveries where you need a human interface, where you need people to actually go and deliver food. And then there are some traditional industries, maybe like car making, automobiles. We have a couple of brands.
No, I'm not saying that we shouldn't be dissing on it, but it's just, see, our level of appetite and risk taking has been very, very low. India में 10 रुपए डाल रहा है, मेरे को 100 रुपए चाहिए. Unfortunately, that's the case, right? You are not going to get a 10x return every time. You're not going to get a 2x return. But you want to preserve your capital. You want to take very safe risks. I mean, look at Facebook, for instance. Facebook raised money for Peter Thiel, probably the time when most people in India, from a VC point of view, would say that, ये क्या बकवास बना रहा है? The level of risk appetite in India is definitely at a different level compared to the US. So I think we are not going to see path-breaking companies come out of India till you make those bets. I think AI is a great space to take those bets because you've got domain expertise, you've got the right people, you can build for the world straight up and it will scale very quickly. Traditionally, we have not taken those bets. That's why we're still lagging.
The entire Indian startup wave has been too much around marketplaces. The same thing has happened with health tech. Like we have been trying to build platforms where people can just go and look for doctors, look for hospitals, blah, blah. What we need to do is work on creating medical devices.
But then you need specialized capital for this as well, right? You need to have people who've done this routine, who know FDA, if you want to do that kind of stuff.
Like drug manufacturing, their life cycle is 20 years.
Yeah.
It requires really patient capital.
Yeah. So in your experience, Pushkar, you've met with a lot of founders, you've mentored a lot of founders. What do you see as apprehension people have when it comes to fundraising? Where do you think founders really struggle?
I think most Indian founders, they have some idea. And unfortunately, a lot of them are too much influenced by the news. So one question I often get is, what should be my valuation? What should be my dilution? People already have a number in mind that, hey, I want to raise this much, or similar company got valued at 50 million or whatever, 20 million. I also want that valuation. But no one really thinks that, hey, maybe it's a good idea to bootstrap to a certain level, build a product, and then raise more money. Unfortunately, because of this startup wave, we have attracted a class of founders that are very opportunistic, who just think, hey, I'll only build this business if I can raise capital. In my opinion, usually these are not the kind of people who build big businesses because they are only in for the money, quick money.
Remember when you had this podcast with Zaran, he said there are two kinds of founders. One guy is the guy who can raise capital. The other guy is the guy who can execute. And there's a very narrow band of people who can do both. I kind of agree. There's a lot of noise out there. So people are like, I want to get on the next wave.
See, we have 1.4 billion people and has what excited VCs that, hey, keep pumping money in consumer internet. Eventually money will come. So far it hasn't come. Same way D2C brands. But very few of these brands are profitable.
There's no depth, unfortunately.
And there is no entry barrier. Let's be honest, we're not building a Gucci or Armani, right? Or a Prada. So eventually any new guy will come and disrupt you. There is no customer loyalty. And this pressure to grow is also very difficult for the founders.
So it's kind of interesting. I mean, it goes back to this bike company called Ultraviolet. They sell the electric bikes. They spent 7 years perfecting one model of the bike. 3.2 lakhs, 4.2 lakhs based on the range. How many people in India have that gumption and focus to do just one thing and one thing really, really well? And the investor is saying, listen, I'm giving you a blank check, just go out and execute this.
But had he raised money?
I think he's obviously raised money because otherwise you can't build a business like that. Very swanky showroom, there's a lot of R&D costs, he's probably raised money, for sure. He sold 700 bikes in the first 1 year. And the guy at the showroom was unfazed by it. I said, sir, doesn't matter. We built a good product. I'm not saying India can't produce, but do we have the intent and the patience to do it?
No, because also a typical VC fund won't have that kind of horizon, right?
They'll have to roll it over a couple of funds.
Or you invest in year 5 or year 6.
Yeah, they could invest in year
But
5.
who's going to fund the R&D for the first 5 years?
Yeah,
That is the question.
yeah. Somebody's got to take the risk, right? So it's either got to be government, it's got to be angel investors, it's got to be micro VCs. Somebody's got to figure it
But
out.
can't be funds because the lifespan is 7, 8, 9, 10 years, like 7 to 10 years.
But then look at the number of the deep tech companies and the deep tech companies and the funds in India today. If you were to compare it with 2 years before, the number of deep tech funds in India are a lot. And these are not small funds. I'm talking about people who have raised anywhere from 50 million to 200 million for deep tech. These guys have to do a 10 plus 2.
I think the hypothesis is maybe like you invest in a very early stage. By the time the product is ready, you have some validation, you get an exit. And then the next fund comes in. Because if you invest on day 0 and day 15, like year 15, it becomes a big company, no fund can stay put for 15 years.
Frankly, I don't know whether Indian founders have the patience to go through a 10-year cycle.
Right.
Forget 15-year cycle.
So to come back to our question, last point I just want to say, again, Indian founders, they're always chasing the next big thing. They're always chasing the wave. That right now is the AI wave, let's build something on AI. Right now there's the whatever D2C wave, let's build something on D2C. Quick rich scheme. That we quickly want to become rich. No one wants to build a business for 20 years. This is something I haven't seen in any founder. I haven't met like maybe 1% of founders say, hey, I want to do this for 20 years of my life.
I think fundamentally the guys who build clean, good, long-term cash flow businesses are the guys who build very good businesses. These set of episodes of Building in India, we are much gracious and honored to be partners with Atomic. That is a pretty cool co-working and managed office space in Trivandrum. And Pushkar, I presume you're kind of happy to come back to Trivandrum and use the Atomic as a facility for our podcast.
Yes. I think it's a beautiful space. How they had designed the entire area and the community focus around it is just fabulous. Our hosts, they were very generous to show me the entire facility. And I have to say, this is one of the best co-working places I have been to all over the India. I'm honestly surprised to find such a place in Trivandrum. I didn't expect something like this in Trivandrum. We just love the space. And whenever we are next in Trivandrum, we would again shoot here.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. And look forward to seeing you in the next episode.